Hello, my name is Samantha Holbert, and I'm a junior psychology major at West Virginia University. I'm a part of the Parent Child Interaction Therapy Lab at West Virginia University under the direction of Dr. Cheryl McNeil. I'm excited to have the opportunity to present a poster I worked on with other members of my lab. This poster is in collaboration with researchers from the University of New South Wales, Sydney, in Australia. Our poster analyzes parent characteristics and invalid responses on the brief child abuse potential inventory.
Hi, I'm Serena Roberts, and I'm a senior psychology major, also working in Dr. McNeil's PCIT lab.
Hi, I'm Miranda Signorelli, and I'm also a junior psychology major in the PCIT lab alongside Serena and Samantha.
Child maltreatment is a prominent issue and affects millions around the world. Therefore, it is important to determine which parents are at risk for child abuse, in addition to identifying parent factors associated with this elevated risk. We utilized the Brief Child Abuse Potential Inventory, or the BCAP, since it not only measures for child abuse potential, but also identifies parents who respond in a socially desirable way, or fake good. There has been previous research showing positive correlations between parental stress and child abuse potential. However, research studies have yet to examine how parenting stress relates to valid and invalid responses on the BCAP. Previous research has not fully examined links between parent difficulties in emotion regulation and risk for child abuse as measured by the BCAP.
As Samantha mentioned, the BCAP assesses for socially desirable responding, or faking good. This is determined through a validity scale called the lie scale, which measures to what degree caregivers engage in socially desirable responding. When an elevated lie score is present, the respondent's assessment is invalidated, which indicates that they may not be answering honestly and are attempting to portray themselves in a more desirable way. A score greater than or equal to 4 on the BCAP lie scale or greater or equal to 1 on the random response scale was deemed invalid based on the cutoffs determined by the researchers who created the BCAP. In previous research, these responses are not typically included in their analyses. However, such responses may help to identify a critical subset of parents at an elevated risk for child abuse, since they are trying to portray themselves in a more positive way.
In addition to the BCAP, which measures child abuse potential and socially desirable responding, we administered two other measures shown here on the slide. The Parenting Stress Index short form, or PSI-SF, measures levels of parenting stress through three domains: the parent distress domain, the difficult child domain, and the dysfunctional parent-child interaction domain. Additionally, we use the Difficulties in Emotion Regulation Scale, or the DERS, which parents use to report on their own emotion regulation capabilities. The DERS consists of 6 subscales, measuring non-acceptance of emotional responses, difficulty engaging in goal-directed behavior, impulse control difficulties, lack of emotional awareness, limited access to emotion regulation strategies, and lack of emotional clarity.
As you can see from the participant slide, our study consisted of 84 toddler-aged children and their mothers. About half of the mothers were white, while around 40% had an undergraduate degree. The average age of mothers in the study is about 32 years, and over half of the parents reported their yearly family income to be $101,000 or more. These participants were a subsample of a larger study for children with behavioral difficulties.
To assess the number of valid and invalid scores on the BCAP, descriptive statistics were run. In addition, an independent samples t-test was used to assess for differences in abuse risk between parents with invalid and valid responses on the BCAP. Another independent samples t-test analyzed differences in parental stress through the PSI-SF among parents with valid and invalid profiles. Another independent samples t-test determined whether there was a relationship regarding emotion regulation between parents with valid and invalid profiles, as reported by the DERS.
After scoring the BCAP with the total sample of 84 parent-child dyads, 41 parents had valid responses and 43 parents had invalid responses. Parents with an invalid score on the BCAP had a higher average abuse risk score of 8.53 compared to the average score of the valid group, which was 3.09. This means parents with an invalid profile were at greater risk for child abuse. In addition, parents with an invalid score had an average total parental stress score of 39.96, which was significantly greater than those with a valid profile, whose average total stress score was 30.40. The same is true regarding analyses of the DERS. Those with an invalid profile had a total difficulty score of 19.46, which was significantly greater than the total difficulty score of those with a valid profile, which was 2.39. This table displays the mean values of the abuse risk scale on the BCAP for parents with valid and invalid profiles.
As we mentioned, a series of independent samples t-tests were run to assess differences between the three domains of parenting stress. The results are presented here in this table with all three subscales and total stress score on the left. Results suggest that parents with invalid responses were significantly higher in all domains of parent stress and overall stress when compared to parents with valid responses.
Additionally, we assessed for differences in the 6 subscales on the DERS, which are listed on this table to the left side. This table represents the results from the independent samples t-tests with the DERS subscales. Our results indicated that parents with invalid responses were significantly higher in all domains on the DERS, as well as overall emotion regulation difficulties when compared to valid responses.
Over half of our sample was invalidated due to socially desirable responding. The big takeaway message is that our results suggest that parents with invalid scores have higher levels of stress, more difficulties regulating their emotions, and are at a heightened risk for child abuse compared to parents with a valid response profile on the BCAP. Our findings underscore the need for future research to include invalidated responses on the BCAP, as they may identify a subset of parents at a heightened risk for child abuse. These parents also may be experiencing extreme stress regarding their parental role and while communicating with their child. They may be at risk for greater difficulty regulating their emotions as well. Therefore, it is crucial to further assess socially desirable responding and its potential risk factors. Invalid responses on the BCAP may also provide implications for other parent-reported data, as they may be biased to respond in a socially desirable way on these assessments as well. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Please leave us comments and questions below.